Welcome, everyone, to the Media Row podcast on this cloudy, kind of gloomy Thursday, but a lot of great basketball from last night to get to, a really good Thursday night football game with playoff implications to get to today. So let's just get right to it. Welcome, everyone, to the Media Row podcast. I'm Justin Miller, where we talk about Drake men's basketball, women's basketball, Valley hoops, Valley football, college football, NFL, everything. We'll talk about everything. Even next week, I'm assuming we're probably going to break down a few of the Christmas movies. But let's just jump to the Valley hoops that happened last night. There were 6 teams in the Valley that played last night. Teams went 4-2. In games not Murray State and Indiana State, Valley teams went 3-1, with Bradley winning barely over San Francisco, Illinois State winning, and Missouri State all winning. They won pretty easily. They didn't have much struggle. Evansville, the only Missouri Valley team to lose outside of the only conference matchup in the game of the night. Evansville, 26-point loss to a 6-6 UT Arlington team on the road. Evansville hasn't won a single game on the road yet this year. And looking at that, I don't know if Evansville has really ever been good in my lifetime. There's been players that have been good, but that's always shocked me that Evansville has struggled as much as they do, and for as long as they do. I mean, we've seen Drake go through cold stretches. I mean, for most of my time as a kid, being a fan outside of the 2008 team, Drake struggled. I mean, I was a huge fan of Aaron Hawley and Richard Carter, but those Giacoletti teams were hard to watch at times. They would play on Thursdays in Arch Madness, and if they barely snuck out a victory in the first round, they're getting blown out of the next game against Creighton or Wichita State or whoever they had to play, Loyola. But they slowly got better, and we've seen Evansville go through coaching changes, and there's just no one there for the right fit, and it just continues to happen. Evansville, a really tough start to the year, a 26-point loss. But the game of the night in the Valley was that Murray State-Indiana State, the only conference matchup of the night. You have Murray State coming in with 5 starters that can really be efficient and strong offensively, a defense that likes to cause turnovers, going up against an Indiana State squad that has started to win games, started to find a rhythm. Going in, they had won 3 straight. They have some really strong players in Teal who went off last night, and we'll get to that in a second, but they struggle with turning over the ball. So yesterday, if you watched the show, I broke down how I was going to take the team that has the most consistency in the starting lineup, which was Murray State, and a team that likes to get out in transition and cause turnovers against a team that struggles turning over the ball. And you look at the box score last night, and you take a look and go, well, on paper, Murray State did everything right. They had 4 of their 5 starters with 12-plus points. They forced 16 turnovers. They shot 41% from the field. And then you highlight it. Your eyes get glued to it. 26% from 3. You go, oh, okay, that's probably going to allow Indiana State some opportunities. And then you look at Indiana State stats, and of course, Teal jumps out right away with 26 points, 4 of 7 from deep. So you have a guy alone on Indiana State in Teal who puts up 26, 4 3-pointers. Murray State, as a team, in a full game, only put up 6 threes. So Teal almost outshot an entire team from beyond the arc. And then the biggest one, the one that I highlighted, 29 bench points for Indiana State to Murray State's 12. And that was something I did think about, is the depth yesterday. But going into that game, it looked pretty balanced. I didn't see Indiana State's bench putting up 29 points. I mean, when you have that coming in as reserves for guys like Teal, who's having a strong night, it's really hard to lose a home game when you just have constant firepower coming in and out of that game. Murray State, they played a strong game, just the shots weren't falling. And they weren't terrible shots either. It was just one of those nights where I think you'll see these two teams face again in Murray State. And I think it's going to be another battle, but I don't think it's a 10-point victory for either side. I think it'll be a back and forth battle. It may be one to circle the next time these two teams play, but Murray State falls to 6-4. They've now lost 2 straight. Indiana State 7-4. They've won 4 in a row, which is now the third highest winning streak in the Missouri Valley, because you have Drake, of course, that has won 10 straight. They're undefeated at 10-0. One of 3 teams left undefeated, as Oklahoma, as we'll get to in a little bit, they stayed undefeated, which, as a Drake fan, man, as an Ohio State fan, I could care less about Michigan, but as a Drake fan, I'm wanting Michigan to win that game so that everybody looks and goes, "Oh wow, Ohio, or Drake, one of 3 teams left unbeaten." Because I think I might have misspoke. I might have said 3. It's 4 because you have Drake, Oklahoma, Florida, and Tennessee as your 4 teams. So I wanted there to be 3. So sorry if that was a little confusing. Could have mixed up my words there. But right now, Indiana State with the 4 wins, they're third highest in the MVC behind Drake, 10-0, and then Belmont, who Drake plays in their first home Valley game the Sunday after Christmas, which will be an amazing atmosphere in the Knapp Center if both teams continue to play as well as they are. Belmont with 5 straight wins and could make it 6. As tonight, Belmont's the only Missouri Valley Conference game of the day. They take on UC Irvine, 9-1 UC Irvine. So you have 9-1 going on the road against 9-2. No top 25 games being played. So all eyes. Tune in to ESPN Plus at 6:30 because this should be a good one. Belmont, a team that I'm really interested to start to get to know more, because they always look like they have strong teams. And a few years ago when Drake went to Belmont, when they were going on their run with Tucker, Connor Enright, and those guys, just a team that really matched up well with those DeVries type teams in size. They rebounded really well, and that has continued to stick with this Belmont Bruins team. So I'm excited to watch this. I know nothing about UC Irvine. They're 9-1, and they're favored by 1.5 points. That's about my extent to what I know about UC Irvine. So it'll be interesting because early on you see that type of record and you go, oh, okay, maybe this is a team we could see in March. And, you know, in a first round game, maybe they get put in as one of those 14 seeds or 15 seeds that could maybe make some noise. So it'll be interesting to watch this game tonight and just get a good feeling, as these are the final non-con games before we head into, after Christmas, conference battles start. Which, with that being said, yeah, we get some cool matchups. Like last night with Michigan and Oklahoma, you have UConn and Gonzaga playing. Drake, you know, going up against Kansas State, which I'm all for these types of matchups. But, man, I do kind of miss when conference play would start like this week or a little earlier. But money is to be made, so teams are going to do it. You're going to go on these big travels. Unless you're UConn now, where you have Hurley, who's just deciding after that horrific Maui run that he's just pulling his team away from any multi-team tournaments or events during the season, which I wonder how much he has a lot of pull, of course, because of the money he's making. He passed up all that money with the Lakers, so he's making good money with UConn. He's trying to win a third straight title, which in NCAA basketball we haven't seen since the 60s and 70s, where UCLA went on their tear. We've seen a couple of teams go back to back. You have Florida with Billy Donovan that did it, and then Duke in the 90s. So he has pull. But when a school has an opportunity to make a lot of money going to these Maui Invitationals and all that, I wonder. So he can puff his chest and say, we're never doing that. What if the athletic director's like, these are the tournaments that pay your bills, like that pay your salary, allow us to give you all this money? So I wonder if he really does have that much pull. But as we talked about last night, handful of top 25 games, but none bigger, and it lived up to the hype. Number 24, Michigan, taking on number 14, Oklahoma. Oklahoma, like we've said, one of the few teams left undefeated at 10-0 going into the night. Jeremiah Fears put on an all-time performance, 30 points, and then it's highlighted by that amazing 4-point play in the final seconds that gave the Sooners the victory. That was an incredible performance by Fears. And I'm really excited to see where this Oklahoma squad is going to stack up in a really tough SEC, because that SEC is physical and big. And Oklahoma's big and can be physical, but I don't know how to feel about them because they struggled against a big man in Golden for Michigan last night in the first half. And I think we'll get into how I think Michigan messed up in the second half. But back to Oklahoma and the SEC, you have teams like Auburn that can move really fast, and they've played kind of a tough non-con schedule in the Maui Invitational where they played Iowa State and only won by 2 in the last second, or they had a putback that put them up in the final seconds. You have teams like Tennessee that are playing really good. Florida is now making noise as an undefeated team. Alabama looks good. Oklahoma, I don't know who they are. Michigan was their first real test, and they struggled for the most part, able to sneak out that victory, and that's what really good teams do. That's what separates teams from one another, can you win the games when things aren't going right? We've said that 1,000 times about Drake. But I don't know how this Oklahoma squad will do in the SEC. I don't know how all these teams are going to do. I mean, I saw someone at the Drake game we were talking about it, one of the photographers, and he mentioned how there could be 9 to 12 teams in the SEC that get seeded in the NCAA tournament. And as of right now, which one do you kick out? You have Vanderbilt, who was one of the teams that was picked to finish, if not dead last, towards the bottom, and they're 9-1. Their one loss coming to the Bulldogs, but they're 9-1. The SEC is the best conference in the country by far. So I don't know where Oklahoma stacks up in that. They're a good team. They are an NCAA tournament team. That was an NCAA tournament game last night. And while Jeremiah Fears had a great game for Oklahoma, it was golden for Michigan. And Michigan, a team, one of the main reasons they lost last night was because they couldn't hit a three-pointer. 4 of 28. They only hit 2 in the entire second half. And when you have this day and age, you have to be able to hit threes to win. Now, Michigan almost broke that because they have a big man in Golden that put up 26 points that in the first half, they were just feeding him. And it was really cool to watch because growing up when I played basketball, I was really tall for my age. So, of course, I was put in as a center power forward. And so growing up, I would watch college basketball and watch the big men. And I liked it when they were able to shoot threes because everybody's attracted to the three-point shooters. But it's really cool because you don't see it that often when teams run through a big man. I mean, I'm trying to think. Purdue did it last year. UConn had, I wouldn't say they ran through their big man. Creighton with Kalkbrenner, I don't know if they run through him either. I don't know. There's a handful that we're seeing, but it still isn't as usual as it was. I mean, back in the day, that's how you won games. You would try to get that 7-footer. And then it just slowly changed over time where, no, you don't need to have a big man. Your center could be 6'8", and you can just shoot threes. But it was really cool to see in that first half, Golden, 26 points overall in the game. That first half, though, he had 16 points, shot the ball 9 times, and here's where Michigan went wrong. They went away from what was working in that second half. Give some credit to Oklahoma, too. They made the halftime adjustments. But watching that live, and when you read articles, you saw this as a common thread, as a common concern, was it appeared Michigan just wasn't giving him the ball as much, and it didn't appear. It is what they did. He only shot the ball 3 times in the second half compared to his 9 times in the first half. And I think that's why Michigan lost. You went away from the guy that was hot. He should have finished with 32 points. Should have had 16 in both halves, if not more. And you give him the ball only 3 times. And he was able to go to the free throw a handful of times, and he was able to hit them, which both teams shot from the free throw line very well. Both teams over 85%, if I read that correctly. And you know me, a guy that loves the fundamentals, Division I teams, Division I athletes, make your damn free throws, and that's what Oklahoma and Michigan did. And it set up for a great night. It was awesome. Both teams didn't turn over the ball crazy amount. They looked under control. These are 2 NCAA tournament teams. But 2 teams that, again, I still don't know who they are. So no top 25 games on tonight. The biggest game I'm going to be watching is that Belmont versus UC Irvine. Really big one in the Valley. Really interested to see where this Bruins team is. And I mean, it's going to give Drake fans a good opportunity to see who Drake will be facing at home in their first Valley game. Now, Drake still has to get past a struggling Green Bay team on Saturday, so you don't want to overlook a team like Green Bay because you know Gottlieb will have his guys prepared. I mean, Gottlieb is going through the fire right now on social media, through interviews, getting criticized for doing a radio show, trying to coach as well because of how bad the team has looked early on. But he will have his guys ready, and Drake is not flying under the radar anymore. They are not flying under the radar. Early on in the year, no one knew what McCollum was actually going to be able to do. How would these Division II athletes, make the step up to Division I? Now you're 10-0. You just took down Kansas State. Yeah, you're not flying under the radar. So that's my college basketball preview. Valley Hoops, again, Belmont, the only team playing today. So I'm going to be double boxing it tonight because we have a great Thursday night football game. Should I roll up my sleeves and do the stupid, that gag of the political charts and everything because there's playoff implications on the line? Because right now, You have the Broncos at Chargers tonight, and this is a game that I went back and forth. I'm in a family pick'ems. First place. Still plenty of season to go. My dad's right behind me. My buddy Peyton also there. But this was one of the few times I've gone back and forth on the app. Because these two teams stack up well. Two good defenses and two offenses that doesn't have a lot of star power. One has a quarterback you trust, but man, is he healthy? Is Herbert's ankle bothering him? We've heard the offensive coordinator mention and Harbaugh mention how they're cutting plays out since his ankle injury against Carolina. No J.K. Dobbins, and we've seen how that's hurt the team. The team's lost 3 of their last 4. Then you go over to the Broncos. You have a rookie quarterback. Not a lot of star power on that team either. Sutton's been playing well. The defense is strong. Not really a great running game. Nix, one game he looks really efficient and calm. Next game he throws 3 interceptions. Which Bo Nix are you going to get? But the Broncos, all they have to do to secure a playoff spot is win one of their next 3, which is at the Chargers, of course, tonight, at Cincinnati, and then Kansas City for your final game. Congrats on playing in the AFC West. But they just have to win one of those, and they're in. Even if they lose, they only drop to 85%. So they still have a really strong chance to overcome a loss tonight and get into the playoffs. That being said, the Chargers, on the other hand, their back's up against the wall. The Chargers have lost 3 of their last 4. If they win tonight, that bumps them up to 97% chance to make the playoffs. If they lose, it drops all the way down to 73. No J.K. Dobbins is huge. He's on IR. And while they have lost 3 of their last 4, they're not outside of that Tampa Bay game where I don't know what exactly went wrong in that second half because it was back and forth in the first half. I think the Chargers at one point were all the way up to like an 80% chance to win that game, but just got blown out in the second half to Tampa Bay. You scratch that game. Their other 2 losses are to Baltimore and Kansas City by 1 score. They're right there with teams, and we still don't know who this Chargers team really is. Who's healthy, who's not healthy, who's the star, who's not the star. And when I'm looking at this game and trying to make a prediction, I go automatically to defense. And the Broncos have a really strong defense, and it's been playing really well. But the Broncos have had 4 games that have been pretty easy. Congrats, you beat the Colts. The Colts are a bad team. I was never huge on Richardson going into the draft. Yeah, he's got a hell of an arm, but when he was at Florida, I wasn't that impressed. I know there were rumors that Seattle was going to take Richardson, and I was begging Seattle didn't take Richardson. And so you've beat the Colts. Falcons were in there. Browns were in there. So, yes, you're winning games, and that's what matters, and you can't control your schedule. I know that, but when trying to compare teams, yeah, the Chargers have lost 3 of their last 4, but they're to really good teams, and they're not getting blown out. They're playing up to those teams, even with all the injuries. So I look at the defense, and the Broncos can cause turnovers. They're 5th in the NFL in takeaways. And right away, that's when I first clicked the Broncos. I was like, all right, it's going to come down to which team can get an extra possession. But then you look, and the Chargers are really good too. They're top 5 in turnover differential. They're behind teams like the Bills. And I sit here and I ponder who's going to win tonight. And as I'm sitting trying to make a decision on the Broncos and Chargers, I think it comes down to which team is able to get extra possessions tonight? What team is able to cause turnovers? And I think with the way the Chargers have been able to pick off quarterbacks, and after Bo Nix threw 3 interceptions against a bad Colts team, their back's up against the wall. They're in desperate need of getting extra possessions. Which quarterback do I have more trust in to not make those mistakes? It's Justin Herbert, and it's the Chargers defense. So with that being said, I'm taking the Chargers tonight. At home, backs up against the wall. You need to win this to keep your playoff hopes alive. You need extra possessions. Bet against the rookie quarterback in my mind. And I've been impressed with Nix. I like Nix. But give me Herbert. Give me the Chargers defense to take down the Broncos tonight. I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any means. But give me Herbert and the Chargers. So, thank you all so much for joining us today. It was kind of a quicker show because there wasn't a lot of Valley to preview heading into tonight. Belmont should be a fun one, 6:30 on ESPN+. I'll be watching it along with probably having my computer out ready for Thursday night football. Broncos, Chargers, let me know in the comments on both, as we'll post this on Twitter at Media Row Pod and at Justin_C Miller. We'll post this on Twitter, on YouTube as well. And let me know if I was correct in my thinking here with the Chargers and Broncos, because that is a tough one. 9-5 versus 8-6. Playoff implications. Love this time of the year in football. Tomorrow, Friday show, big show. We're going to preview both the Drake men and women. Big games coming up this weekend. Women are on the road against St. Thomas. Drake at home against Green Bay with Gottlieb and all that drama coming around. As well as we have college football playoffs finally. It's been 2 weeks. Blink of an eye, here's the college football playoffs now. In a weird way, it's a blink of an eye, and also at the same time, it's felt like a month without college football. Yes, there's some other bowl games, but I'm on that belief now where those bowl games don't really matter. Make it to the playoffs. There's 12 spots now. Make it to the playoffs. So we'll preview Indiana and Notre Dame in the first game on Friday night. Then Saturday's games, Ohio State, Tennessee, and a lot of people picking Tennessee early. And I don't know if I blame them either. So we'll definitely preview that along with the NFL slate too. So busy Friday show. Thank you all so much for joining me. I'm Justin Miller here on Media Row. Make sure to check us out on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. Click that subscribe button. Thank you.